Mhm. Hey, David McGuffin right here from Middleburg, Florida. It is October the 24th, 2023. So welcome to Travel Talk Tuesday. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. The last couple of weeks, we've talked about my new tour in Croatia that begins in Budapest and goes all the way down and does a 7-night cruise on the Adriatic Sea. But today, I thought I would spend some time talking to you about my travel philosophy, share a little bit about how I got into all of this. And so for some of you who are veteran travelers with me and tour alumni, you may have heard this time and time again. So don't feel embarrassed if you bail out, because it's no problem at all. But I wanted to go ahead and make this recording so that I could put it online and have other people who want to take a look at it get the whole deal with David McGuffin's travel style and travel philosophy. So a lot of it's just pre-recorded stuff. I recorded it. Actually, everything that you're going to see tonight, as far as me live, is recorded in Ireland over the course of several years, or actually a decade or more. And so you'll get a little bit about that. So I'll do that. I'll stop a little bit in between as we go, but enjoy hearing about my travel style and what I do and why I love to explore Europe. I grew up as a little boy in a small town in North Florida called Middleburg. And I grew up in reading in my history books and studying in my Sunday school lesson about all these places where I had no clue where they were. For example, Jesus was from Nazareth, and where is that? I don't know. Or Paul went to Rome, or St. Peter, was crucified in Rome, and he established a church in Rome. And those were concepts and just names, but meant nothing for me. And then when I was in college, in the late 1970s, I got an opportunity to sing in a choir. Look at those
and
pants.
The choir took a tour to Europe and to Israel. And so we did a week in Greece, a week in Italy, and a week in Israel. And that opened my eyes to the world. And so ever since I went on that trip, I just kept my passport valid and knew that at some point I would return to Europe. So fast forward about 10 years and I started my teaching career in the early 1980s. And after I got established as a teacher, I began to gather small groups of students and say, hey, why don't we go on a trip to Europe and see the world? And it was a way for me to get to travel and to bring some of my students along as well. So I did that for 3 or 4 years and finally decided that it just wasn't turning out the way I wanted to because of a lot of things that just didn't set well in my mouth as far as the way the tours were being organized and operated. So finally on the last trip I did was a band performance trip. And I had planned most of it, including the performances and where I wanted to travel. And so after that was over, I decided I'm going to do all this on my own. So I started exploring Europe in 2001.
Near Interlaken.
And our very first trip was in 2001 in March that I organized. And we gathered a group of people from Orange Park, the area of North Florida that I live in. And we traveled to London and the countryside of London. And it was a crazy trip because if anything natural could go wrong, it did. It was a winter of the hoof and mouth disease. So we weren't supposed to get off and walk into the fields or anything. It was also the big scare about the mad cow disease going on in the UK. And so they were, gathering cows together and actually slaughtering them and burning them in big pits as we traveled through the countryside. But regardless, it still worked out and everybody had a great time. And, we got home and everything was fine, no problems, no issues. Everything was planned to a T. And so I said, okay, that works. Let me venture out and go again. So I just started gathering groups of people that I knew and taking trips. And I was very fortunate the other first two trips I took were or actually large groups, 30 or 40 people on buses throughout Spain and France and Italy and
Salzburg.
Paris, I think. And so from there, I just began adding trips
David McGuffin
more and more each
exploring
year
Europe.
and visiting destinations in
My
Europe
first bus
more and more
tour.
each year. And that's how the evolution of exploring Europe began. Often folks ask me how in the heck I pick the destinations that I like to go to. And there's a lot of things that go into it. Like, for example, on the tour we're here with right now, we are visiting 3 towns that start with D. We're visiting Dublin, which is the big tourist city in Ireland. And then we're visiting 2 small little towns, one on the west coast of Ireland, known as Doolin, and the other one down on the southwest coast of Ireland, the name is Dingle. Now, I make it a rule not to take any of my fellow travel partners on a trip to a destination that I've never been. Simply because I don't like trying to go in and maybe trying to figure out, where are we going to stay or where's the bus stop or anything like that. So I can guarantee you that everywhere that you go on a trip with me, you can be assured that myself or the guide that's leading it is very familiar with the locale and can get you where you're going safely and quickly. Well, maybe not quickly, because it depends on the pace of the walk of the travel of the
My
group.
tours are for active folks.
So, for example, in all of the countries in Europe, there's got to be big tourist destinations. For example, in Italy, you have to go to Rome if you're a first-time traveler. You pretty much have to see Florence if you're a first-time traveler. Here in Ireland, Dublin, the same thing. You have to visit Dublin. But for most of the folks that travel with me, or I can say 99.9% of the folks that travel with me, it's the small little locations, the little locales and the villages that they so much enjoy. Getting off the beaten tourist path and meeting local people, or maybe people that own little restaurants that I know or pubs that I know or whatever. So, for example, right now we're in Dublin's fair city at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now, some of the group are in the cathedral, touring around in the cathedral. We decided to come out to this little park that is outside the cathedral, and we happened to be here on the very last week of school for the students here in Ireland. And you can imagine how that would be. You got the little kids, they're in the classrooms and going crazy. They know that tomorrow on Friday is their last day of school. So what do the teachers do? They take them on a field trip. And so all they do is they walk them by hand to the field trip, and they come across the street and go to the park and play. So consequently, that's why we have all that. But a lot of people would miss out on this experience because they're a mile down the River Liffey, tooling around on O'Connell Street or on or Temple Bar or whatever, and wouldn't get to see this experience that we're getting. It might be a small thing, but you pile them all together, it makes for a big thing.
So I've been challenged on how much free time people have on our tours, and I've kind of broken it down to 60% of the time that we're on the tour is structured, whether it be visiting a museum with a guide or traveling from one destination to the other, having dinner together, having breakfast together, doing a walking tour in a town or something like that. And then so about 40% of the time you can get out and do things on your own. And people choose to do that in many different ways. For example, right there in Dublin, when I was talking in that park, there were some folks right inside the St. Patrick's Cathedral, but as I mentioned, there were some down the road at the Guinness Storehouse, getting an authentic pint of port of Guinness, the famous stout from Ireland. And there was a few people over in the Temple Bar area. And even some people, I think, were at one of the museums in town as well. So you get some free time on the tours about 40% of the time. We try to structure so that you can have it on your own.
Itineraries and destinations and activities on the tours also are constantly evolving. A good example is here in Dublin. I was here with a group last week, and I happened to walk by a pub in Temple Bar and saw a advertisement for a thing called the Irish House Party. I didn't quite know what it was, so I did a little investigation and went and asked the pub owner what it was. and knowing that I would have this particular group coming back here this week. So instead of just going to another pub and have dinner, which is what my plan was here in Dublin, I arranged for the group to go experience this Irish house party, which is basically a unique show that is put on that shows the traditional Irish instruments, a traditional music session. Also, it has an opportunity to hear the Irish harp played, which you don't really get too often, plus the ceilidh, the dancing, and then they explain all of the instruments, and you have a dinner with that, and the dinner was excellent, a great experience. It would have been the same dinner I would have had with the pub as well, but to have the addition of the show was just a great experience. And I think there's 40 some odd people with us on the tour right now, and every one of them have pretty much told me today, you know, you need to keep that. That was the most enjoyable thing we've done because we got to see everything at one point. So I'm not really stuck with a canned tour. I'm willing to venture out and change my game plan in order to make the tour experience much better for everybody that's traveling with me. I have a real passion for making sure that the people that are traveling with me get an authentic experience in the locale, in the destinations. That might be sort of sound like a canned phrase, but it's really not, because you know, you can go somewhere but not experience it. You can visit the Eiffel Tower and even go up to the top of the Eiffel Tower, but if you don't have you know, a few hours to have spread out a picnic of the stuff that you've gone to the market and bought, and have some wine and cheese and sandwiches and bread and fruit and all that stuff, and have the experience of actually sitting down like the Parisians do, have a picnic on the Champ de Mars, and then going up the Eiffel Tower, you've missed out on the entire experience of being in Paris. And I can just, every destination I can say that over and over again. But I think that's my utmost passion, is making sure everyone experiences it. My best advertisement are people who have traveled with me.
I got to stop that one because I waxed on for about 10 minutes there talking about, you know, I don't like to toot my own horn and all of that kind of stuff. And finally, the young lady who was interviewing me, Abby, just said, well, I'll just tell him, you know, how do you do for advertising? I says, you know, the folks that travel with me, they're the best advertisement we have. So I encourage you to visit davidmcguffin.com and check out the tour comments from all those who've traveled with me, or many who have traveled with me over the past 20 some odd years, just to see how it all plays out.
Some of my most memorable experiences evolve around dining and the locale in which we do that. Because on those early tours I was telling you about, where I would gather up my students and we would go travel with other groups of people on one big bus, I always came home hungry, because the food we had was just, it was terrible. It was worse than what we would get at home. So I remember on many occasions returning to JFK Airport or Atlanta, and the first thing we would do is run to Burger King or Chick-fil-A or something, because we had not had a good meal for 2 weeks traveling through Europe. So my memorable experiences, like I remember one time myself, I was, first time I ever went to Mont Saint-Michel off the coast of France. I had ridden the train out from Paris and taken a bus and to get there, hectic experience. And got there, I was just exploring there, learning how to take a group there. And it was late at night, sunset, I saw the tide come in, and I went into this little restaurant, and it was about to close, and I asked the lady there in my terrible French if I could get a pot of mussels. And basically she said they were closed for the night, but she had cooked me up a pot. And so I saw her in the kitchen go get the mussels, shuck them, put all the sauce and ingredients in there, and put it down on my plate and in the bowl and bring it to me, and she said, "Now don't start yet." And she came back with the bread and gave it to me and said, "Now enjoy your mussels." And that was just such a great experience and a unique experience for me, for someone to treat me so well and to do that. So that's a great dining experience. Another memorable experience is, had several, but on one of the hill towns in Spain, in southern Spain, in Arcos de la Frontera. We had a big 9-passenger van, and I was taking a group there, and I took a left turn instead of a right turn, and we ended up with this big Volkswagen 9-passenger van in a little alleyway that I could not get out of.
By the way.
And we were at the top of
later.
town, and I had to navigate down. And every person on that street came out of their house and started giving me advice and instructions in Spanish, how to navigate and get around. And so me and the people that were with me will never forget that experience. It would have never happened had I not taken the wrong turn, but it's an experience we'll always remember for life, navigating in Arcos de la Frontera with all the Spanish people telling me where to go. Hey, David McGuffin here, Wicklow Mountains National Park at the Glendalough monastic site. I'm talking about some of the elements that make Exploring Europe's tours set apart from others, and we'll do a fair amount of walking on our trips. Today we're out in the countryside, and folks, if they want to, can take a 1.5 mile little hike out to the monastic site, going along the lakes here. There's some of my group there in the red, and of course it's totally optional if you want to do this, but it's a beautiful day, fall day. Gosh, it's about 50 degrees. It's kind of windy. You can see I'm all bundled up here. I've encouraged everyone to get a picnic and to get out and explore, to see the monastic site and to experience the national park. Hey, your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. Hey, David McGuffin here, walking down a little country lane.
Apologies for the
here
wind.
on the Aran Islands. Aran Island of Inishmore. Continuing my theme of what makes Exploring Europe tours with David McGuffin a little bit different than many others. Gosh, we do get out and do a little bit of walking, as I mentioned earlier, but also we try not to nickel and dime you to death. Our prices are all inclusive and include everything.
Now the wind picks up here, but I'm just going to tell you, we try to include everything in the cost of the tour. And so right now we are on the island of Inishmore, which many tour companies charge an extra supplement to go to. This is part of our tour experience.
Hey, good morning. David McGuffin here from Westport, County Mayo in Ireland. One of the elements that makes my tours set apart from some of the others is, as I've mentioned, small groups, but this morning we're able to be flexible and slow down and experience this town. We were due to leave about 9 o'clock this morning, but at dinner last night we chatted about it and decided why not spend a little extra time in this town for shopping and experiencing it. So this is a great location, Westport, County Mayo. And later on today, we're off to Northern Ireland. I consider eating well a priority on all my tours. And we include breakfast every morning. It's a major part of our daily activities. And then we include about half the other lunches and dinners on our tours. Sometimes at hotel restaurants if they're above and board and above quality, and then of course most of the time out in restaurants that we've discovered over years, knocking around each place that we visit, finding the best cuisine possible. We'll always include the food, several courses, and water, and what you buy beyond that to drink is all up to you. Another element that makes my tour stand apart from others is that we stay in
charming hotels, B&Bs, and guest houses, usually located very near the city center or the locale that we're staying, so you don't have to worry about getting into town or anything. It's right here nearby. We're in Westport. We've stayed in a Westport hotel here, wonderful 4-star hotel. We've also been in a B&B and a guest house with my friends down in Dingle. We've stayed in a hotel on O'Connell Street in Dublin. Now we're heading up to Portrush Atlantic Hotel, and finally in Belfast we're staying at a Hampton Inn, by the way. So varied places that we stay, but you can always count on them being clean, safe, in a decent location, and very secure.
So the final tour elements are whatever the price you sign up for the tour at is the price you pay. We may raise our prices later on, but you pay for the tour price that we sign up. And then again, we've got some safety checks in place to kind of help you get out of the tour if you find that you cannot use it, whether it be insurance, whether it be suggesting that you buy comprehensive insurance. We don't ask for final payment until 90 days before the trip begins. And you can cancel out up until 4 months, 120 days before the tour begins. So we have all that, but gosh, the older we get, the more I say, buy some travel insurance. That'll help you too. Let me come back full screen and close this out. So thank you guys for being with us tonight on Travel Talk Tuesday. We're going to take next week off. That's Halloween next Tuesday night. So woo, boo. And then we'll be back for the first 2 Tuesdays in November to talk about a few other places. Maybe I've got on the docket Greece and also Derry or London Derry. But I had so much material today, I didn't get around to putting the material and the footage that I talked with my local tour guides who are in Europe about museums and crowded destinations, everything else. So I'll fit that in on one of those 2 nights in the first part of November. Okay, enjoy Halloween next week, and we'll catch you the first Tuesday in November. Thank you.